You know, sometimes a good deed just doesn't go unpunished. Some people are just hard to please and cranky. What do you do when you're dealing with that kind of a situation? That's what we're going to look at today on the Encouraging Word. Hey, welcome back. I'm James, and I want to share with you 3 things that will help you when you're dealing with difficult people like that. And let me give you an example first of what I'm talking about. There was a young man at the post office standing at the counter, and he was writing the address on one of his letters and getting ready to send it. And an older man came up to him and said, "Excuse me, could you do me a favor?" And he said, "Sure." And he said, "Would you mind writing this message on a postcard for me?" And so he gave him the message, and the young man filled out the postcard for him. And he says, "Could you please put P.S. Please excuse this awful, terrible handwriting." Some people, even when you're helping them, even when you're doing them a favor, are going to be complainers. I'm convinced that Philippians 2 and verse 14, complain and grumble about nothing, is the most violated passage in Scripture. But sometimes that's me, and sometimes that may be you. But what do we do when it's the other person? Well, one of the things we need to remember is that sometimes that's been me, and sometimes that's been you. And a little humility will go a long way. So that's number 1. Be humble and remember you've been there. And we have not always responded in the best ways possible. And so we want to give the grace that God has given us and pass that on to this person. Because the second thing is, remember, you don't know what that person may be going through. They may be going through a very difficult day. We don't know what's happened to them before that. They could have been like this for 40 years. It's a personality problem, and we're not going to fix it one day at the post office or wherever we are. Just remember that there's a bigger story in that person's life that we don't know. I have known some people who had a long-held and earned reputation for being kind of cranky that turned out to be really great friends. This has happened multiple times in my life because when I heard the reputation that they had, I refused to let it define them. Instead, I gave them another chance and got past whatever the wall was to find out, why is this person coming across that way? And most of the time, I found out that there was a hurt or a struggle or whatever, some bigger part of their story that didn't necessarily justify it, but it made it make sense. And once it made sense, then you knew how to minister to that person. And so take the time to remember, first again, that we've all been there. Second, they've got a bigger story than we may see in this one interaction. And then 3, just remember this. God has said that those that we forgive, we can change. We can plant a seed in their heart that may open them up to the gospel itself so that they too find grace. And remember this too, that Jesus said at the end, just after he gave the disciples what we call the Lord's Prayer, he reminded them that if we want to be forgiven, we need to forgive. And that includes those moments where we've done a good deed and it wasn't taken well. Those 3 things, there are more, but for today, those 3 things can be transformed. God bless you. Have a great day.